I will readily admit that I have been extremely hard on Acura for the last dozen years or so. And I won't apologize for it. Fact of the matter is that it is their fault. In the 80s, 90s, and for most of the 2000s, they built and sold some of the most compelling, appealing, interesting performance luxury cars money could buy. But then at one point, I assume somewhere in the late 90s or early 2000s, someone got involved that should not have, meddled in things that were perfect and screwed it all up. In my opinion, it started with the 2002 RSX, which was supposed to replace the Integra, which it never did. Now I have to catch myself now because I get emotional when I start talking about Acura products because I've loved the brand for so long. But by the mid-2000s, we had an amazing TL, actually a few generations of an amazing TL. We also had an incredible TSX. But then by the late 2000s, both the TSX and the TL just went to hell, essentially. I won't elaborate as to why, just look at pictures of both cars and read reviews. Anyway, somewhere later on in the late teens, well, both cars disappeared or more or less merged into a TLX, which is what we have here. But this is not the previous TLX. This is the all-new 2021 Acura TLX. And I think that Acura has finally found its way again. I think. Let's go for the usual walk around. We'll take it for a spin, and I'll tell you why I think Acura is back. Let's just jump right into design. And I think this is the best angle to start to get an idea of what Acura is doing with the TLX. And in fact, the RDX is very similar, the current generation vehicle. If you look carefully, you'll notice that the proportions are very off, or at least compared to what a lot of modern cars are being delivered with. If you concentrate on the front of the car a little bit versus the rear, it's almost phallic in a way. I guess that's the PC way to put it. And to be frank, at first, wasn't too sure about what I was looking at, but then I opened up my mind and I understood. What Acura is doing here is doing their own thing. No longer are they Acura trying to please German luxury car buyers or even American car buyers. They are back to being Acura and marching to the beat of their own drum. And actually, it really works. The car is beautiful. It's not, but it is at the same time. Look carefully. Look at the overhangs. Look how long they are on both ends. It's unusual, especially up front. But there's something about the uniqueness of the design that now makes it appealing as opposed to cringy. And well, there's one thing about my particular tester that makes it even more appealing, and that is that. In fact, in no uncertain terms, this is the version that you have to get. It's not necessarily the best equipped, but it's the visually most appealing, and it's got, anyway, all the kit that you could ever possibly want. So pricing, $37,500 in the US. Important. All-wheel drive is an option on all trims. In Canada, all-wheel drive is standard on all trims, so it starts at $43,990. There's a Tech, there's an A-Spec, as I just showed you, and the Platinum Elite. The A-Spec is $49,290. And visually, what's different about it, other than the badges, is the front fascia is kind of tweaked. The wheels here are black. Oh, well, I don't know if you spotted them, but we got LED fog lights. There is this spoiler on the trunk, which is a nice touch. Slightly revised rear, and that's it. That's your A-Spec. Actually, not entirely true, because my performance red example adds $500 to the sticker price for a grand total of $49,790. That's it. You cannot option out your TLX. It comes one of four ways. Choose your color, case closed. And I really, really like that approach. especially for luxury cars somehow. I don't know. I don't know why exactly just luxury cars, but it doesn't really matter. Do we want to show you the trunk? I suppose, why not? We'll just do the usual tour. Okay, so now you know how to open the trunk. It's actually decent size considering the size of the car. Enough said. Getting in and out in the back is not that bad, to be quite honest, because look, the roof line is almost horizontal. A little snug-ish back here, but that's not out of character for this type of car. Legroom is okay. There's a shot of the dash. It's cool, but things kind of fall apart there. We'll get to it in a moment. You could actually slide 3 across here. It would work. However, if you're over 5'11", I'm 5'10", there is no headroom. So that's it for the back. Let's work our way to the front. All right, so leather and suede seats, also part of the A-Spec package. They look great and are extremely comfortable. Acura does interiors very well. They always have, same for the seats. The materials, the textures, the finish, contrast stitching. There's a sense that it's solid and well put together. I really like this texture of material. All right, let's just slide in, press the button. So here we have what I really enjoy is a combination of analog gauges and a digital readout right in the middle. That works out beautifully. I'm gonna try and get a shot of the steering wheel. Flat bottom, it's great, and it's also, thank you very much. Okay, so actually, before I go there, visibility is actually pretty good. Acura figured that part out. This is where you kind of get a sense that this car is actually bigger than it is because there's so much hood up ahead. Anyhow, let's just go right into door bins are a good size. Storage here is good. That's your wireless charger. That's a great size. And then, well, here we go. Yes, I'm gonna start complaining now. That's just, I can't. That's your standard 10.2-inch screen, which is beautiful, lovely set, but it's not touch sensitive, which means you have to work with this thing. And look, it might be revised, but the thing is, it's difficult to show maybe on camera, but if you change the speed at which you move on the trackpad, if you just accidentally lift, if you don't purposefully or properly work it, see, I wanted to select SXM, but it didn't. It's so distracting, so immensely frustrating. There are no redeeming qualities to this thing. When you're driving and you just want to change, say, if you want to change channel, forget it, I quit. That's terrible. This HVAC layout I absolutely love. I love just the array of buttons and the way that they're curved. That's beautiful. So you know, this is your IDS button, which changes your drive modes. You have sport, you have normal, and you have comfort. So that's a nice combination of features. There's no custom mode. And then there's this to select your transmission buttons. Now, Acura has adopted this, I suppose, and it's in all their vehicles. I just don't find it sporty or becoming for this automobile. But the fact of the matter is that it works well, and once you get used to reverse and then park, you know what, it becomes second nature. Thankfully though, on the road, it's not a question of second nature. It's a question of having some fun. So let's do it. Now, powering all versions, except for one, the Type S of the 2021 TLX, is a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, which produces a very respectable 272 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 280 pound-feet of torque from 1,600 all the way to 4,500 RPM. That actually makes this car much quicker than the numbers would suggest. Part and parcel to that is the 10-speed automatic transmission, which so far has been flawless. If anything, it's perfect. Even when using the paddle shifters, it responds crisply, quickly, and I don't know. The only downside I can think of to the powertrain is that actually I mentioned this not that long ago, It's difficult. It remains difficult to make a 4-cylinder engine sound convincingly premium in a premium automobile, no matter what you do. I think maybe Mercedes-Benz figured that one out in the AMG versions, but those are AMG versions, not exactly the same game. Fuel consumption, you'll average about 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which is within acceptable norms for this type of car. What I needed to discover most of all about the TLX is the chassis, the drive. And I will be absolutely frank with you, I've left the car in normal 99% of the time that I've spent behind the wheel. That is, if only to get a sense of what the car can actually do. Comfort, if it dulls everything, all the actuators, for throttle and all that. I don't want to feel that. I want to feel normal, what it feels like when it's unmodified. And to be frank, the car delivers that perfect balance between something that is active or dynamically in tuned with what I expect an Acura to be, and delivering an impressive level of refinement. The only thing that's kind of ruining that is that there's a rattle behind me. I think it's the rear bench. I have checked to make sure that they're locked in place. But other than that, the damping, the chassis, the suspension, everything works really well. And that probably has to do with this great structure. What else can I tell you about this car? Well, how about I conclude by saying that this is not the buzzy, loud, stiffly sprung Acuras that I grew to love from the 80s and 90s. No, it's better than that. It's actually better than that because it's more comfortable, it's more civilized, but you also have an edge to the drive. There's an edge to the styling. You consider that you get all of this for $50,000, and you compare that to the Germans, which I just recently did with another car, a Cadillac, or two in fact. And the arguments in its favor are very, very strong. Infotainment technology, just technology that is part of the interface between the car and the human in this car, unfortunately though, ruin part of the experience. This is of no fault. The car is not at fault for that. It's once again someone insisting to keep this trackpad in these cars. Because if this was either a wheel or we had a touch screen that was, 12 centimeters further forward, I would honestly have almost nothing negative to say about the car as a whole. So this is why I think Acura is almost back. Because now the product has evolved in a direction that is compelling as the previous cars, as appealing as those old cars, just better and in tune with the times. Now if the evolution continues and this goes away and Acura figures out a way to make the shifter a little bit more interesting, both visually and in operation, Acura might be back. And I am very much looking forward to driving the 22 MDX. That looks the part too. I'll give Acura a thumbs up. Not two, just one. We'll see where we're at in a couple years.